Hey folks, this is Reaper, and death comes for your PS4 if you're playing Anthem on... Hey folks, this is Riker with a gaming news wrap-up video where we discuss the happenings of the week. This week's topics include the game Anthem potentially bricking PS4s, Diablo 1 re-releasing not on Battle.net but through good old games, a wrap-up of other action RPG news, and more. As always, discussion timestamps can be found in the video description. But right before you skip ahead, be sure to ring the sub-notification bell to be alerted of new Saturday episodes. Now first off, while I know it's not gaming news, I still think it's relevant to a lot of us. Game of Thrones. The trailer for Season 8, the final season, is live. If you haven't seen it and are okay with the very mild spoilers, go check that out. April 14th. Keep that date on your calendars. Now onto some Dungeons & Dragons related news. The popular live-streamed D&D series Critical Role started up a Kickstarter to fund an animated special. They smashed through their goal of $750,000 within hours, and as of right now they're sitting at about $6.4 million, and by the time this video goes live, I would not be surprised to see it at $7 million. If you're not aware, Critical Role is a live show of people playing Dungeons & Dragons, but the hook here is that all the players, including the Dungeon Master, are all professional voice actors, many of which have actually worked on Blizzard properties and many other video games. The DM is the voice of McCree, one of the players is the voice of Vala, the Demon Hunter. And if you're not familiar with D&D and want to have an idea of what it entails, I do encourage you to check out Critical Role. Alright, on to some news about Anthem. Now the big headline this week was that Anthem was bricking PS4s. Now, those reports may have been slightly exaggerated, because it doesn't seem to be confirmed that multiple people have had their PS4s bricked, but at least one person has. What is true, though, is that Anthem has been causing a lot of PS4s to crash, and many people have trouble turning their PS4 back on after a crash. Now, in some cases, what seems to be happening is that there is a database corruption that happens, and rebooting the PS4 in safe mode and allowing it to repair the database can fix whatever problems are caused. But we do know that at least one person's PS4 is completely dead, no power going to the unit anymore. After such a crash, it might be an unrelated incident that happened to happen at the same time. It could have been that the PS4 was already on the way out and this just finally sent it off. Or it could also be that in general, if your PS4 or any piece of hardware is consistently hard crashing, that's not a good sign, and you're gonna eventually destroy the unit. The problem is so bad that Sony is actually issuing refunds to those who requested, because people are now getting paranoid that their PlayStation is gonna get destroyed because of this game. And then furthermore, in perhaps related news, PC players are also expressing that Anthem is shutting down their PC randomly. Not that the game crashes, that they're playing the game and their whole computer shuts down. Sounds kind of like what's happening on the PS4. If this is happening to you, be it on PC, be it on PS4, if the game is causing your entire system to shut down, I'd hold off on playing it for a bit. EA is asking people to help them troubleshoot this, to get more information on the issue, to try to solve it, so maybe hold off and wait for that to be resolved before what appears to be power fluctuations in the power unit could potentially do any real damage to any of your system's components. Your system will most likely be fine, but why take the risk? Now, before we go on, I'd just like to take a quick minute to thank the developers of Black Desert Online for sponsoring this video. They've launched a new Battle Royale mode in BDO called Shadow Arena. It pits up to 50 players against each other, either solo or in teams of up to 3. And it's a really interesting take on the Battle Royale genre. You might think, how does Battle Royale work in an MMO? And I've personally never seen this executed before, but I think they pulled it off really well. What happens is that rather than load in with your own character, everyone loads in as a spirit, and you fly around the map at the start looking for a frozen body in stasis for you to possess. And these bodies, which can be found around the map, are basically representative of the various character classes. So once you possess a body, you then run around and you're going to kill monster NPCs, you're going to open chests, and you're going to get loot. item upgrades. Your defense and offensive levels will rise as you get better gear, and you're also going to unlock powers. And now, after playing this for a bit, I found myself having fun. I'm terrible, as I am at most BRs, but I've been having a lot of fun with it. So if you folks want to check it out, follow the link in the video description. On to our next news story. For 11 months straight, Fortnite Battle Royale dominated Twitch. It was the top game until February 2019, in which it was surpassed by Apex Legends. Apex Legends has reached 50 million players, and I've been playing more of the game myself. My first impression when I first played it was, damn, this is a good game. I'm not having fun though because I suck. I've put in some more time now and I am having fun with the game. I am getting kills now. I had one game where I had 5 whole kills in one game. That's how many I normally get in an hour. But it's just such a well-made game, and you can see why so many people who typically don't like battle royales are attracted and find themselves enjoying the game. We did get word from the devs on balance changes that they are working on. Some were implemented, some will be implemented after more testing. But basically what they express is that they want to make less frequent but more meaningful, more impactful balance changes. And so the changes that did roll out were some slight nerfs to the Wingman and the Peacekeeper, two very strong, way overperforming weapons. They did not implement, and they don't want to implement, any buffs to the Mozambique or the P2020 because basically the game needs some garbage tier weapons in order to feel like there is some progression, some upgrade, some better items to be found. Then it does appear that they have taken the feedback about hitboxes to heart, and they are looking to implement changes to bring Caustic Pathfinder and Gibraltar a little bit up in power. They'll start by tightening up the hitboxes a little bit, but if they feel that's not enough, then they're going to look to actually buff them in some way, such that there is a trade-off, that yes, they're bigger, but something, and that something might be some degree of damage reduction. They're exploring different options. So overall, good on Respawn. We're seeing some positive indications of what's to come for the game, and speaking of Respawn, that takes us on to our next topic. Jedi Fallen Order being developed by Respawn. What we did not know is that Chris Avellone is on the project, and we know him from such classic RPGs as the Baldur's Gate series and Planescape Torment and Fallout New Vegas. I think I'm actually starting to find myself getting hyped about a Star Wars game being released under EA. On to some Torchlight Frontiers news. The NDAs have lifted. People can now stream and show footage of the alpha. I spent a few hours with the alpha. I'm not going to get too deeply into my thoughts because I think we'll express them more fully perhaps in a standalone video, but my preliminary thoughts are that I am enjoying it. It does feel reminiscent of Torchlight 2. I find the horizontal progression system interesting, but it might be a little bit at odds with the sort of casual audience they seem to be aiming for. And by this I mean basically the whole thing with the horizontal progression. Your character does not have levels. You don't level up. Instead, you level up different frontiers, different areas. But that's not to say your character does not become more powerful. You will gain as drops skill points, and you spend those skill points to buy new skills and upgrade your skills. It's a very interesting concept, and I'm not sure yet whether I prefer it to the standard of just your character levels up. However, I do feel that it's a little bit more of an abstract concept for a casual audience. I feel that one of the fundamental appeals of an action RPG is just that sense of progression. I'm leveling up, I'm getting stronger, and by moving that progression off of your character to some degree, I know you're still getting the skill points, but to some degree you don't feel that level increasing, and putting it onto the environment, I'm not sure how that's going to fly with a general audience. Again though, overall I'm liking it, and I'm looking forward to spending more time with it and giving some deeper thoughts. On to some Warhammer Chaosbane news. There's currently a beta running for anyone who has pre-ordered the game. It's going to go until March 13th. And you can check out my video that I released yesterday on Warhammer Chaosbane. I show some gameplay from the Mage and the Soldier classes in case you don't have the beta. So do go check that out if you haven't. We also saw the release of the beta launch trailer, as well as a Q&A in which we learned some extra little tidbits. First off, the devs described the end game content that they have in mind, which include 3 modes. 1, Boss Rush, in which you fight the bosses from the story mode again, but as quickly as possible in order to earn better equipment. There's an exploration mode in which you explore randomly generated levels to farm crafting items. Sounds kind of like rifting in Diablo 3. And then you have Relic Hunt, in which you can configure various elements to create a type of dungeon that is as favorable as possible to obtaining the gear that you need. And this seems a little bit more like mapping in PoE. Of course, I'm sure the game's gonna have its own unique spin on things. I'm just trying to find some vague analogies to compare them to. We also learned that there will be post-release content that they stressed would be new content. In other words, not content that they've already made and are withholding. They mentioned that there will be free content, and there will also be a season pass that will be created once the game releases. On to some Path of Exile news. Synthesis League kicked off last night. I played the new league on stream, and this is really weird because I'm recording this video before the stream, before I played, but you're watching it on the following morning, so I have to pretend that the space-time continuum isn't all warped. If you haven't checked out the patch notes for Synthesis League, I'll drop them in the video description. Also, I'll have a link to this visualization of the changes made to the skill tree. This is available on poeskilltree.com, and it does a great job of, at a glance, showing, okay, what areas were nerfed, what areas were buffed, will this affect the builds that I've been playing? Speaking of nerfs, we got a pretty heavy nerf to Arc, but player/theorycrafter/expert guide maker Enki believes that hand-casting Arc is still viable. Ethereal Knives got a significant buff, Poet's Pen got a significant nerf, and then we also saw nerfs to Tomb Fist and Loreweave. But that's really just scratching the surface. Again, full patch notes below. And if you want the devs' full thoughts on these changes, they also included a balance manifesto. Alright, on to Diablo news. Diablo 1, the first, the original, the 1996 Diablo game, is now available to purchase on GoG.com. There's been no way to legally acquire Diablo 1 for years now. There's been no online shop that you can buy it, and no physical store retailers have been selling it. And in an unprecedented move, Blizzard seems to have partnered with GOG and basically handed off the reins to them and said, here's Diablo 1, you can run it on your platform, do what you want. And if you're not aware, GOG is owned by CD Projekt Red, the developers of The Witcher. And not only did GOG re-release Diablo 1 on their platform, but they also made a sort of semi-remastered mode. In it, you get HD resolution support, you get compatibility with modern operating systems, and you can choose to play either of the 2 versions. The original unchanged version, in which you can play on Battle.net and connect with other players, or the GOG enhanced version, in which you can't play on Battle.net, but you can still play multiplayer through LAN or P2P connection. There are no plans to bring Hellfire onto GOG, and that's not surprising because Hellfire was not developed nor published by Blizzard. They'd have to work things out with Sierra to get the rights to do that. And also, Blizzard has basically disowned that expansion. It is stricken from canon. We do know, however, that Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2 will also be brought to GOG. Now, one question is, was this one of the multiple Diablo projects in the works? I would think not, especially since they're talking about having multiple teams on multiple projects. I don't feel like they had a Blizzard team on this project. It really seems like they just handed the reins over to GOG. I could be mistaken, but this also seems to suggest that we will not be getting a remaster from Blizzard of Diablo 1 or Warcraft 1 or Warcraft 2. And it seems like there's no plans to bring these games to the Battle.net launcher. Now you'll note that they specifically did not call out Diablo 2 when they were saying which of their classic games were going to GOG. And in my opinion, that's just further proof that Blizzard actively seeks to remaster Diablo 2 and re-release it on the Battle.net launcher, as they've done with StarCraft, as they're doing with Warcraft 3, and I believe it's a pretty safe bet to say at this point that Diablo 2 Remastered is one of their multiple projects. But what do you folks think? Sound off in the comments, because that's going to wrap up this week's video. But do be sure to have checked out last week's video, in which we discuss NetEase being finished with their part of Diablo Immortal. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. I'll be sharing on Patreon and on the private community members tab on YouTube some behind the scenes footage of me getting shot with some Overwatch Nerf guns. And if you haven't seen it yet, you can check out the video in which I take off my hat. I know some people have been having issues hitting that join button. It's only available in 41 countries, but also if you are on mobile, I think there's some issues. You can click the join link in my video description if the join button doesn't work, and if that also doesn't work for you, then it sounds like it's not available in your country yet. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Riker's Raiders for more gaming content.